Suppressed recording.
Hello there, my name is Catherine Woodfall. I'm UCD Global's International Manager for the North America and Latin America countries. I have three people in front of me. On the left-hand side is Aidan Prinz Lua. In the middle I have Colin Cronin, and on the left-hand side I have Cody Saunders. They are here to answer your questions about pre-departure orientation for our incoming students. So if anybody has any questions, if you can just type them in and we'll go through them as they come through. But in the interim, the gentlemen will each have a couple of words to say to you.
I can kick off. My name is Colm, as Catherine said, and I am the International Student Advisor here at UCD. I've been working in higher ed for nigh on 15 years now, and working with international students for 14 of those years. Also spent a little bit of time working in the immigration office, so have a little bit of an idea how they think. Probably most of you watching this hold non-European Union passports, so you're going to have an immigration requirement when you come to Ireland. But if anyone holds an EU passport, so say you hold an American passport and an Italian passport, or maybe you hold a Brazilian passport and a Portuguese passport, then I would say to you to enter Ireland on that EU passport. Use that when you arrive in the country. We have freedom of movement within the EU. You will not have to register with the immigration authorities if you hold an EU passport. Okay, so that is definitely worth bearing in mind. I think I can open with that. I'll come back and talk a little bit about immigration in a little while, but I might pass it along to Cody to introduce himself.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Cody Sanders. I just recently completed a master's degree here at UCD in Anglo-Irish Literature and Drama. And I'll be sitting here talking about immigration today.
All right, and my name is Aidan Prinsloo. I work on the scholarships and funding sort of side. I'm here primarily to talk, but I can answer a couple of other questions if you've got a few of them. I've only been working in higher ed for the last 5 years, so a bit newer to the game, but definitely not less experienced.
I'm trying to figure out this work. There's nothing going on. It is. I'm waiting to see. I'm waiting patiently for some questions to come in. So hopefully they will arrive in soon. Initially, I suppose we'll just talk about. It's coming very near. Sorry, the first question is from Lindsay. Can I get my UCS student card prior to orientation to open a bank account if I'm coming early?
In order to open a bank account, what you're going to need, so we have an AIB bank on campus, and they are very familiar with the process. And so what you'll need in order to open that bank account is your certificate of attendance. You get the certificate of attendance through SysWeb, the Student Information System. And what you'll need to do is update your address on SysWeb so that you have your term address, your Dublin address. You go to the AIB bank on campus and you take in your passport, your certificate of attendance, which is your proof of address. So your certificate of attendance is going to be used to open a bank account. It's going to be used for immigration. It's going to be used anytime that you need proof of address. It's a really useful document. It's like a student status letter in many ways. So you can open a bank account. We have students who've already arrived in Dublin and they have already opened bank accounts using their certificate of attendance. You won't need your student card for that. It's your certificate of attendance that you're going to need to open a bank account, and you can get that. We'll put a link under this video with more information. Just takes you directly to your certificate of attendance.
And on the same sort of question is, what are the hours of operation for AIB on campus?
The hours are 10 until 4, I believe. Banks have the best hours in the country, and they don't open at weekends either. 10 to 4.
And then on a Thursday, as far as I know, they're open for an extra hour until 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
So they very good hours. If you want a good job, work in the bank. But yeah, the AIB it's probably the best place to open an international bank account because they're well used to dealing with all international students.
Yes, indeed.
So we're still waiting on another question. So maybe if we can deal with maybe information about registering, an email maybe going out about registering with INIS.
Yeah, so we have done a YouTube video on this, and if you look through the UCD Global videos, you'll see that I recorded a video a couple of weeks ago which details the steps. I suppose talking a little bit more about it, for those watching, as I said, I think the majority are going to probably need to register, people watching this. So students are divided into kind of two groups before arriving. Some students have to apply for a visa before they arrive in Ireland, and some students don't. So if you are an American student from the United States or a Canadian student, you do not have to apply. Brazilian students also do not have to apply for a visa. Other students, you're going to need to check if you have to apply for a visa. But everyone, at this point, most people who have to apply for a visa will know if they have to. Everyone else lands in Dublin Airport, and even if you had to get a visa beforehand, everyone passes through border control before getting your luggage in Ireland, which can be a little bit different than some other countries. So the important thing to remember is to bring your documentation on the plane with you, okay? Have it in your hand luggage, make sure that you have it with you. What they're going to want to know then, you'll meet with an immigration officer. They're going to want to know that you are who you say you are. You do that with your passport. What are you doing in Ireland? That you're studying at UCD, so that is going to be your acceptance letter. They are going to want to know that you have health insurance, so they're going to want to see proof of that. And for students who didn't have to get a visa prior to coming, they're going to want to see that you have access to enough money to support yourself. So those are the four things that they'll probably look for at the airport. Sometimes they don't look for all of them, but you should have documentation relating to those things. Then what they'll do for most people is they'll put a stamp on your passport for 90 days. Vast majority of people get 90 days. Sometimes people get a little bit less. Don't panic if you get less, it's okay, but most people will get 90 days. And then you have to register at Burkey if you're living in Dublin within those 90 days. In order to register at Burkey, you have to book an appointment. And so you use the Burkey appointment booking system, which both Aidan and Cody have used in the last year. The thing to remember about that is, I suppose, that for the booking system, the appointments are released at 2 times on weekdays. So Monday to Friday, they're released at 10 a.m. Irish time and 2:30 p.m. Irish time. And at this time of year, it's a very busy time for the appointments. You've got new students, and you've got graduating students. You've got people who are working in universities. So lots of people are trying to get them. So there is quite a high demand. So it may take a number of tries for people to get them. But remember, you don't have to have an appointment booked before you arrive in Ireland. And for people watching this, you're probably 5, 6, 7, 8 hours behind us. So it's going to be difficult to get an appointment. So don't worry if you don't have one before you arrive. It will be a lot easier when you get here because you'll actually be on Irish time. Great if you have one before you come over, fantastic. And we've seen from the Facebook group that some people have been able to get some, so that is good. But they release them about 7 weeks in advance. So right now, we're seeing appointments released for kind of the end of September. But what they do is they release a minimum number, right? The bare minimum that they know they can meet. And then as we get closer to the date, if they know they'll have additional staff on, and they will have additional staff in September, they'll release more and more appointments. So if you go online on the INS appointment booking site and you don't see any appointments, doesn't mean that there are no appointments between now and Christmas. There are, but it just means that for that particular day, they're out of appointments. They release them the next weekday. So on a Saturday, you're unlikely to see them unless occasional cancellations will pop up, but you drive yourself mad if you spend all the time just hitting refresh, looking for cancelled appointment. So really, I would say to people, 10 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. Irish time, try and get on maybe 5 minutes beforehand. In Ireland, it's a machine It's not a machine it's not an automated system. It's a person who actually presses the button to release the appointments. So sometimes they do it at 9:55, sometimes they do it at 10:05. It's not Germany, so it's not going to be exact. It changes as well, because it might be 9:05 one day, and then the next day it might be 10:10. So I would say to give it kind of 20 minutes and to work around those times. But remember, 10 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. And even last year, there were issues with the appointment system last year, but everyone got registered in the end. Okay, so don't
worry.
Don't worry. You will get registered, so it's not to panic, and just to persevere and to keep trying to book the appointments.
Okay, so we have another question with a few more. Will I be able to obtain general medical insurance coverage plan anywhere on the campus?
No, not on the campus. But there are a number of different plans, and we've information of that in the Facebook group. So if you're not a member of the New Student Facebook group, I would recommend that people join that. There are 2 questions to join. We ask what course you're studying and for your student number. The only reason we ask that is to keep scammers and spammers out of the groups. But we have information there. If you email immigration.inquiries@ucd.ie, we can send you information around health insurance. There are a number of different companies with different prices and different coverages. So students need to decide what's best for them. Cody can probably talk to what maybe he got, which might be useful. Do you know which insurance policy you use?
Halligan?
You went with Halligan. Now the
Yeah.
thing with Halligan, though, to remember is that is only for courses of less than a year's duration.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would say from a lot of people is a lot of our students use a company called Study Protect, but there's also Irish Life, Leah, and VHI. We will put a link to the Facebook group in the description on this video afterwards, or in the comments, and you'll be able to get more information there. And as I said, if you email immigration.inquiries@ucd.ie.
Okay, so I'm not too sure exactly if we know the exact date. This is from Michael. He says, at what date will we have an active UCD email account, and when can we register for classes? So the UCD Connect account is you have to complete phase 1 registration, which depends on which course you're doing when you'll be asked to do that. I suppose we should mention at the beginning that certain things, we're in an Irish campus, so registering for modules and getting timetables take place much later than in an American university. There was a lot of students will get emails to go and register online from the week beginning the 20th, maybe next week, or the 22nd of August. So please be patient. Around that time, that is when your UCD Connect email will become live. You should, for most programs, have got an email asking you to select a registration time, or in specific cases, if there's, say, a liberal arts and science student, the program manager will be in contact with them directly to ask them about registration for modules. So it's a sort of an in-between date. There's no definitive date. It'll probably happen next week. The next one is from a lady called Lindsay, who wants to know, to what address do we ship our belongings? Is there a mail room to pick up packages? I suppose I have to answer that one too. There's really no mail room to ship your belongings to at UCD. I would suggest that you wait until you arrive and perhaps get boxes sent over to you, and we'll explain that through orientation in your week of orientation. There is no mail room for you to ship your belongings prior to you arriving at UCD. So from Patrick Smith is, can I work on campus, and what documentation do I need to find a job?
Okay, so in relation to working, can you work? There's a couple of things to this, right? Yes, after you register international students, after you register with INIS, and you obtain a PPS number, which is like a social security number, you can work for 20 hours a week during term and 40 hours a week outside of term. So that means from the 15th of December to the 15th of January, and for the months of June, July, August, and September. But what I would say, and that's for like students who are here for at least a year. So if there's anyone watching this and you're a single semester study abroad student, you will not have the option to work. It's only for students who are here for at least a year that you have that ability, but you can work 20 hours. But I would say to remember that you are coming to a new campus, different country, different continent, academic style is going to be very different. It's going to take time to settle in, to make new friends. You're going to have to register. There's lots of different bits and pieces. So take some time to settle in, get to know campus, get to know your classes, join some clubs and societies before jumping into work. Certainly, students would certainly work over the kind of holiday period in December. That could be great, or in the summertime. But I think for your first semester, I would encourage people, if possible, to focus on settling into life in Ireland and your studies at UCD.
And I would definitely recommend that too. I support freshman students in their first year, both vocational and full undergrad. And my recommendation would be to definitely spend your first semester getting engaged with the campus, getting yourself settled, and not putting pressure on yourself to find work. There's plenty of time to do that, and just, as I said, spend that time getting to know your classmates, your accommodation, and getting to know the city that you're in. So a couple more questions. This is, you may be able to answer this, Cody, really not too sure. She wants to know about module registration, how much time when you go on to do your registration online, is there sort of a timeout, or how many courses can you take? I'll answer the courses one myself. You take 6 modules per semester, so you have to choose those. But the length of time when you go online to register, I don't know whether there's a timeline in that. Do you know that, Cody?
I don't know either, actually. My program was already set in the courses, the modules that we had to take.
Okay.
And so they were automatically applied to our account.
Okay. That is no problem whatsoever. My understanding is that you're given a registration time. You go online, and I don't think there's any timeline for you to do it.
Yeah.
But I suggest that you look at some of the modules before you just go online, so that you're well acquainted, rather than just if you're doing a specific program, there will be core modules. They will have them there. You have to register them, and then you have electives. So. The next year, I think Julia also asked if I have any trouble during registration, is there online assistant? You would normally have a point of contact that would have been sent out by on your email, and they should be able to. Everybody in the program offices are well used to students sending questions in, and they'll get back to you quite quickly. So no online direct assistance for module registration, but there are people there to help you. Will I be able to move in on the 29th or 30th before my loan money is dispersed on 2nd of September? Can I pay the housing fee after the loan money is dispersed? That's for me.
So, yes, what actually happens in the next couple of days, I'm going to be sending over a list of the students who have taken out loans and indicated that they'd like their loans to pay for accommodation. So I know if you've booked on-campus accommodation, you might have already received an email saying, please pay by a certain date before the end of the month. If you've taken out enough loans and indicated that you'd like your loan money to be used to pay for on-campus accommodation, don't worry, you'll be able to move in. I'll be communicating with Residence Finance quite shortly about that. Yes, your first disbursement's only going to happen in the first week of September, and that will be after you've moved in, hopefully, into your on-campus residence.
So this is probably another US student's loan. After disbursements, how do the funds get to a bank account after paying tuition and residence? Is there somewhere on SysWeb or other place to advise of a designated bank account?
Yes. No, perfect question. You're actually getting a lot of things ahead of time before I was going to get to them. So essentially, you're quite right. the law, and in terms of how loans operate, we take tuition first, and if you've indicated accommodation, we take accommodation for on-campus accommodation. Obviously, if you're staying off campus, that responsibility to pay for that is with you as a student. All right. After that, we will disperse the rest into your Irish bank account. And I have to stress, it has to be an Irish bank account. So when you arrive, follow Colum's instructions on how to set up an Irish bank account when you get here. There is a place on SysWeb, and I will be sending out instructions by email to everyone whose loans have been approved. But in short, it's going to be under, I think it's My Campus. So you go on SysWeb, you have a look at your profile, have a look at campus, and there will be a place for you to upload your bank account details. Generally, you're going to look at your standard sort of European bank details, so your BIC number and your IBAN number. They're pretty stock standard across the board, no matter which bank you're taking. And if something looks funny, the system does tend to tell us. But I will always recommend come to Ireland with at least 2 to 3 weeks of money to support yourselves, just in case there's a delay in setting up your bank account or details get entered wrong and we just haven't figured it out. We don't get a chance to see your bank details from our side. So once you load things up onto the system, we assume it's correct, and we only find out that things are not working well when things bounce back. Last thing I'm going to say, if your disbursement date is around the 1st or the 2nd of September, give it a day or so to land in your bank account. We usually do our payment run around Wednesday of each week. Okay, and that's between myself and our colleagues in the student payments office.
Okay, so this is a person trying to give you money. Molly, for Aidan, I received a scholarship check. What office should I deliver to once I arrive? Do I need to upload any documents online as well?
So Molly, it depends on a couple of things. If you've received a check yourself, if it's made out to UCD, you can take it straight to the student desk, to the students' payment team to get paid over there. However, you can also bring it to UCD Global, to myself. Again, if it's made out to UCD. If it's made out to yourself, Molly, the best thing to do over there is to lodge the money into your own account and then pay to UCD directly like that. So it depends what it's made out, who it's made out to.
Okay, that's fine. I suppose any of us can answer this. Do we need a permanent address to apply for a student leave card?
You need a term address. On system, your permanent address is your home address. Your term address is going to be where you're staying while you're in Ireland. So you
need your student card.
Yes,
to get your student leave card.
Yes,
Right, exactly. And so when you go, I mean, they didn't ask for my address. I don't know if that's a normal thing. Normally you just show them the ID, but you should register your student leave card on that with your address.
You have to be registered, but you won't need the leave card.
Yes,
For
so
your IRP, you
yes.
will.
Right.
But in order to register, you should update the system with your term address.
Yes. This is, can graduate students register for elective classes beyond those required by the course?
Yes, it depends on which course you're in, though. I actually know this question.
This is from a lady called Gina.
It's whatever course that you might be in. You will have to discuss this with your supervisor or your program director. Generally, you can just send an email on to the department and they'll send it to whoever it needs to get it to. Or if you've already been in contact with someone at the department, depending upon which course it is, sometimes they do offer electives, but you can also take classes beyond that. There are many who have, because the graduate modules are quite a lot. They're a lot. And so, again, it all depends on which course that you're already registered for.
Okay, so there's a query about fees for those students who haven't paid full college fees. When are we supposed to pay the rest of the tuition fees?
So essentially, and it is program dependent. So if you're on medicine or if you're on vet, disregard, or veterinary medicine, I should say, disregard what I'm saying. Do contact those schools around that because they have strict payment deadlines. If you are paying regular laboratory or classroom fees, essentially we work along a process like this. Ideally, you'd pay, if you're on a 2-semester program, 50% in the first semester and 50% in the second semester, or in a three-semester program, 33% with each semester. the way we check this, or the way that the university enforces this, is that if you aren't paid up to that deadline at the end of the year or end of the semester when your results are released, you won't be able to view your results or access them. So that kind of gives you the time frames around which payments should happen.
Okay. Can we do internship in Ireland?
Can you do an internship? I suppose it comes down to a couple of things. Like some courses are going to have an internship built in, and in that respect, if an internship is built in as an integral part of a course, then that's acceptable for immigration purposes. Students would, I mean, the summer months, a lot of the time, depending on what you're studying, if it's an undergrad, students would do internships then. For grad students, some grad students do internships, but they're trying to combine that also with research and writing a master's thesis. So it can be difficult to juggle those things, but it really kind of varies on the course, because some courses even have it, like even grad courses may have an internship built in instead of a master's thesis. So it really varies.
So I'm not too sure we can answer this one, but we'll try. This lady will be studying in the Belfield campus and wanted to live close to the university but off campus. Are there specific areas close to the university that you recommend for living?
I can jump in there first. I think one of the most important things to highlight over here is that UCD is in one of the most expensive suburbs, not just in Dublin, but in the whole of Ireland. I would strongly recommend, if you're looking at places to live, public transport in Ireland, and Dublin is particularly good. And a lot of housing websites, if you're going for private housing, allow you to search based on your transport route. So you can say, I want to live on a transport route to UCD. We definitely recommend having a look along the DART lines. The DART is the local rapid transport train that runs along the coast. Very scenic, well recommended. And getting to, the DART runs within 20 minutes walk of UCD, and there's a daily shuttle bus that, well, not daily, there's sort of every 15 minutes there's a shuttle bus at the beginning and end of every day. I wouldn't, do you want to add anything to that?
What I would say as well is UCD has the busiest kind of bus terminus in the country, so it's really well served by different bus routes, and so that's something to bear in mind as well. And I want to just emphasize, given that we're talking about accommodation, I'll probably highlight this again and again. When you are searching for accommodation, and Cody, maybe you can talk a little bit in a minute about your experience, do not pay any deposits without seeing a property in person. Okay, unfortunately, there are scammers out there, and they will contact people on Facebook or on Daft or the different websites that you use, and they will say they have a property, and they will they just happen to be away in Paris or Berlin, and they just need you to pay it, but they can't show it to you. But there are lots of people interested, so if you just pay the money into an account in Milan, then it'll be fine, and you'll pick up the keys when you arrive. And unfortunately, what happens is sometimes students get scammed, and there's no way of retrieving that money, because you're talking about kind of 3 different jurisdictions. The apartment was supposed to be in Dublin, but the person says they're living in Amsterdam, and the money's been transferred down to Milan, and no police kind of want to deal with it because it's not in their jurisdiction. So please be careful of scammers. If an offer is too good to be true, it probably is. Life is not a Disney movie, so watch out for that. That said, there are some very good landlords, very good people, and Cody, maybe you can talk to your experience kind of this year of finding a place, because you did live off campus.
Right. So I spent a fair while searching. I did primarily most of my searching through daft.ie. There's a tab on the homepage for student accommodation, and you can select transport route for it. So I started there, looked basically all across Dublin, County Dublin, because the transport, there's so many bus routes that you can get to. it's a matter of luck and searching and hard work and putting in the time, sifting through all of it. Like they both already said, UCD is in a more expensive area, and so it can be difficult. However, sometimes there are some landlords who specifically look for students too, because they know, how hard the housing crisis can be here. And so, I mean, it's just putting in the time sometimes and getting lucky with it.
Yeah, and I think it's when people get here that it will be easier, because
Yes.
a lot of times you're going to find that landlords aren't going to necessarily respond to emails because they can get so many phone calls. So it'll be when you get here and you can get onto the ground, you can make the phone calls and you can go and arrange a viewing quickly. That'll be probably when you're going to have more success.
Okay, a couple of other, maybe I'll leave that one until the end because it's sort of federal aid again, or scholarship, or federal aid. So when do students receive their on-campus address, and when do we find out who our flatmates are? Well, I suppose if you booked on-campus accommodation through your SIS web, it will tell you when you go in what your address is, and it will also have the names of people that you're sharing with. So at the moment it would have names, but when the photographs are uploaded, the photographs will be there for who you're sharing with. Okay, so this one is, if paying tuition and on-campus housing via wire transfer, can they be paid together or do the payments need to remain separate? Should the payment be made in euros or can it be made in home currency?
So I will answer that. We really do recommend that you make separate payments for your on-campus accommodation and tuition. As much as UCD residences are handled by UCD, they run through a different bank account and everything, so make sure that you are paying into the correct bank accounts over there. If you do end up paying into one bank account, we can sort it out. But the easiest, smoothest way to do it is to make sure that you are paying into the correct bank accounts for residence and for tuition. I would always recommend paying in euro. Okay, you aren't always guaranteed of your exchange rates. You're not always sure what fees are going to happen with your payments.
Yeah.
And we as a university have to do our charges in the local currency, which is euro. So make sure that you do your payments in euro to make things a lot smoother. We do as much as we can to meet people halfway, but just in terms of efficiency, euro is the best way forward.
And I think this one is probably in tandem with this. Does the university charge a fee to pay housing tuition with a bank or credit card? It would be their own bank that would charge any fees. It wouldn't be UCD.
Absolutely.
So how many photocopies should we carry of our offer letter, mark sheets and transcripts?
One, just don't lose them.
One and leave a copy at home.
One. I mean, possibly have one on your person and one in a bag.
That's what I did too.
Just so that you're not, just if you do happen to lose one. Yeah. So maybe have a folder that you keep in your bag and have one on your person. Okay,
so we have. I'm not too sure about this one. So the graduate course allows me to have an internship instead of writing the master's thesis. However, if I wanted to do both, is that possible?
I
think that's one for the course.
I think
that would be one to do. Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
And to ask for suggestions on that too, because you don't want to just make a random decision now, having not even begun it, because I assume that'll be for next summer.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 2 terms from now.
And you don't know what your workload is going to be in the interim. This possibly, I'll probably answer this. There's one from Oris or Sakin opted for an MSc in Information Systems. Certain electives which I'm interested in. The registration time allotted me is tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Is it too late for me to contact regarding an elective? I'd say, well, in all honesty, nobody's going to be responding at this time this evening, but if you send an email overnight and mark it urgent, somebody may be able to get you back by 9:30 in the morning time, but it may be something that doesn't have to be actually done at the registration time at 9:30. We have another one from Let's go, Michael. I think we've already answered this. Which recommendation do you have to set up an Irish bank account upon arrival? Is there a specific bank? I think, Michael, we discussed that at the very beginning, but it's AIB Bank and it's based on campus here, and there will be a link to that probably in the comments at the end of this. Okay, so what are the steps to be able to make international calls? I have a US phone number. How do I go about getting an international card so I can have a phone calls in Ireland?
Yeah.
So what most students do is they go to 3 here, or at least most of my friends did. 3 allows you for €20 every, I think, month, unlimited data, and then from there, most people just use WhatsApp or FaceTime to contact people from home. Or Facebook Messenger, all those things. Also, there's Wi-Fi all across campus. So if you're living on campus, it's no worries. But that's how most people stay in contact with people from home.
Yeah, I mean, I would say to people to get an Irish SIM card if at all possible.
Oh, absolutely.
It's going to make getting to know people and making friends here a lot easier if you can just give them an Irish number. Going to make keeping in touch with people, because it's good to keep in touch at home. That's really, really important. But equally, you're going to be living and studying in Ireland, so you want to be able to keep in touch with people here and get to know people here. So yeah, we've got different phone companies, and check on 3 do the offer of the unlimited data, which is really good because that means you can use things like WhatsApp, like Cody was talking about. So I would say do a bit of research. I think again there's been some discussions around this in the Facebook group. So if you're not a member, join and use the search function within the group. And if you are a member, use the search function and have a look. If you look and look at phone plans in the search, it'll come up. And we've had some current students who've discussed what they have been using.
Okay, so I suppose we'll take a few more questions and then just move on. There's a couple of federal aid and maybe if there's anybody in from Latin America, the federal aid and scholarship really don't apply to them. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, we can do a few scholarship questions for LATAM, but no Fed aid, I'm afraid.
Okay, so we'll ask you, Cody, we've one here, any useful tips, anything related or not related to studies?
Useful tips. Well, the method of instruction here is different depending upon where you're coming from originally and if you're an undergrad or graduate course. That's definitely something that a lot of people, I don't think, really consider moving to Ireland for studies. It's very, very different than the American method of studying, but it's quite easy to get into once you enter it. So one suggestion I would have is to prepare for that, take notes diligently. Most professors won't turn back over the materials. However, many of the instructors are super nice and always have office hours. So that's one of them. 2, I would definitely attend a lot of the Fresher Week stuff. For incoming students, you can meet student groups, you can meet all kind of different organizations. How many clubs do they have here?
Between clubs and societies, we've about 150.
There you go. So I mean, there's something for everyone. Like literally, there's a juggling club, which I found really interesting. There's geographical student groups. Do you know some of them?
We have different, like there's loads. There's an Indian society, there's a Malaysian society, there's a society for everything. There's a Harry Potter society.
Yeah.
There's a food society.
That's a good one.
The International Student Society do so many trips.
Yes.
There is an orientation and an orienteering, and mountaineering society. So there's lots and lots, and definitely, I mean, you will hear it time and again, but really get involved, because there's lots there, but you need to make it happen. And so I would say, look to get involved in clubs and societies and get out and explore. Like there's so many brilliant places around Dublin and around Ireland. So take advantage of the fact that public transport is reasonably cheap, and you can get over to Galway, you can get down to Cork, and you can see these places. And in Dublin, I mean, Aidan mentioned the Dart, and the Dart runs north to south all along the coast. There's some really fantastic little kind of seaside villages and places you can visit. great kind of day trips, and then take advantage of everything that's happening on campus when you get here. It can be a little overwhelming initially, depending on where you're coming from. I mean, it's a campus of about 30,000 students, so in September and during Freshers Week, there's a lot of stuff happening. But just because you don't go to the first event that the society has doesn't mean you can't get involved with that society later on. So bear that in mind.
Exactly. And I did that during Freshers Week. I joined, I think, 15 clubs or something. I think I went to 3 meetings. But that third, just real quick point, definitely get out and explore just the area around Dublin. Because, I mean, you can see the Dublin Mountains from just right here on campus. And, I mean, you hop on the, what is it, the 47? 46? 46?
Where do you want to go to?
That runs out towards the Dublin Mountains from UCD. But city centre, you can hop on the 44. You can get off and step aside and go hike the mountains. I mean, it's just a simple, 35 minutes, you're out of city centre, basically,
Just know where you're going, have your phone, let somebody know where you are.
Irish sense card, get that.
Yeah, don't fall asleep on the bus. Do graduate students pay the student levy charge?
Yes.
Yes, that's
So
very
everyone at UCD pays the student levy charge. It's built into your tuition fee that's quoted on your offer letter.
So is it necessary for us to have a temporary accommodation proof at Dublin immigration?
It depends. I mean, I suppose you may be asked where you're staying. I mean, a lot of times it will depend on the immigration officer you meet, and if sometimes some of them ask more questions than others, and if you don't have anything set up, they may begin to wonder, well, have you actually made plans around this? So it's not necessarily that you have proof, but if you have it, great. But if you have a hostel booking, or you can show an email or something, that will be fine. Were you asked for that when you flew in?
Was it immigration for just landing?
Yeah.
They asked me where I was going to be staying temporarily, so I just showed them my booking for a hostel at the time. I had just printed everything out, put it in a folder. So when I got there, here's my booking, here's my insurance, here's a letter, certificate of attendance, that kind of stuff. And so that's all they asked for. That okay.
So it's possible, or that you may be asked. If you're staying with a friend, that can be fine too. Just know who your friend is and where they
I know
are.
where their address is, and their phone number, because sometimes they ask for that.
Mm-hmm.
I had when I had my friend come over, I had a sheet printed out for her that had my name, my address, my phone number, my email on it. So if you're staying with a friend, do that.
So. Unfortunately, this one is, I think, somebody who applied for their visa on the 31st of July. Course orientation begins on the 3rd. Can UCD help and connect with the embassy to accelerate the process?
Or due to GDPR, which are new regulations in Europe regarding data privacy, the embassies won't really interact with us on kind of individual cases. I would say to email the visa mail at justice.ie and to explain the situation and ask them to expedite the case.
Okay. How do I give immigration proof of sufficient funds upon arrival?
A bank account. It can a bank where your name and the amount is clearly visible.
Okay.
Again, it may or may not be something. You can also use your award letter.
That's what I did.
Yeah. So
I was going to say that.
A lot of people watching it, if you're from the United States, you can use your award letter. It can be a credit card statement, as long as your name and the amount are visible. I mean, what they want to know, they're not monsters, right? They're not trying to keep people out. They just want to make sure that people have actually put some thought into this and they have enough money to support themselves.
Okay. So I suppose this is probably your graduate student. Is orientation week for all students, including graduate?
Yes.
Besides, are there specific meetings for the course chosen?
Yes. So most of the time, the courses themselves will put together like a get-together orientation kind of event. For the English department, we did that and we met. So it was just kind of a module meet together, or of course meet together like a week before. Orientation week, there's plenty of events. There's The graduate school themselves, it depends, of course, which course you're enrolled on, but the graduate school and the humanities put together kind of a mixer that everyone just kind of showed up to, got to meet some people from around the world, other postgrad students. And so it just depends. You might reach out to your department because they're probably planning these things already in advance.
Yeah. So we're going to go for a couple more of Lindsay. I think we've already, if I received financial aid, where do I find the loan interest rate?
All right, so your loan interest rates are set by the US government. And the best thing to do is have a look at the US government website on interest rates. Just straight out of Google, federal student loans interest rates. They will be up there. The latest rates will be published online. And generally, when you're looking at things like interest rates or repayment plans or anything like that, while we can give a steer, everything comes straight from the government. So go directly to the source.
So there's a second part of this. If I can find a lower rate elsewhere, can I decline the loan on my COA form?
Yes, you can. So, and this is a very important thing that people should realize, is that first of all, while we take your COA as an indication of the loans that you want to take out, you are able to cancel your loans up until the point where we disperse them. And I would say just be kind to us, give us a week before the disbursement date on your award letter if you are looking to cancel, and you can also reduce your loans. What I will say is do your research into the pros and cons of federal versus private loans. Interest rates are a very important side of things and definitely not to be neglected, but federal loans also receive support through other ways. Okay, I know it is, always going back to the US government over here, but the US government has a very good website breaking down the supports given to federal loans and how they differ to what you get with private loans. I would definitely go and give that a read if you're weighing up your options.
Okay, I think we've already answered this, but we haven't received disbursements yet upon arrival. Is there a way to show we can support ourselves? So that's just showing you.
So that's your award letter. I will just quickly add something on the award letter side of things. So your award letter can be accessed from your cost of attendance spreadsheet, that Excel spreadsheet, at any time. But what we always say is it becomes valid at the point that your application online gets that loan application approved, loan origination pending status. What that means is that if we haven't approved it on immigration, and they sometimes do call us about an award letter, if we can't see that there's an approval against it, we can't stand behind it. But if it's been approved and we've processed it, I can definitely say yes, what's on that award letter is accurate.
Okay, so I'm not too sure about this one. About documents that we have in UCD, do they have to be in the apostille convention format? Does anybody know about that?
So I'm imagining that you are coming from a Latin American country.
I'd say so, yes.
I come from South Africa, and we also use apostille documents. It's not a big thing in Ireland. I wouldn't worry about it over here. If you are looking at more serious things, identity cards that you're keeping copies with, it is a good idea to keep an apostillized version just for your own records. And if you're dealing with the embassy here, but not outside of that, I don't think.
No.
Well, thank you very much. We've all learned on that particular one. This is from my course has 3 semesters, total 90 credits. So basically when I select my optional modules, the total credits need to be 90 credits, including the core modules. Right.
Yes.
Correct. That was exactly what it was said on the thing, so I wasn't going out. Much lighter one to sort of maybe nearly finish off, and we have another about 5 minutes to go. Is it popular to ride a bike for transportation between?
Yes.
Well, it says between classes.
Oh, between classes. Well, it depends if they have classes based out of BlackRock in here, etc. Across campus, you can. I don't know if you want to.
Well, so I cycle into work every day and here come no matter what weather.
Yeah.
And what I will say is that in term time, look, Dublin is one of the big cycling cities in Europe, believe it or not, strangely. And in term time, bike parking on campus can get quite tough. So you might end up cycling across campus, finding out that there's that the last parking spot that you could find for your bicycle was back where you came from. All right.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely right, because I cycle in every day to UCD, and I mean, sometimes you just kind of around in a circle waiting. I mean, it's crazy. But they've just built new parking, a ton of new parking.
Well, that's because we put in requests for extra.
And there we are, and so getting better every day.
And I think we already answered the gentleman about postal of packages. We just have to wait until you get here and get your parents or guardians to send them on, because there is no mail room at UCD. Can you get UCD credit for US AP tests and or for any college courses taken while in high school?
Oh goodness.
Yes, you can, but you'd have to get in contact with. You'd have to get back onto your application system, contact the admissions area, and upload your APs to it, and they can be reconsidered. So yes, they can be taken into consideration. Definitely. That was the last question that I've received in. So maybe we can wait for another couple of minutes, or any further information you think we should be telling the students?
So, I mean, I will, from a financial perspective, I would say even if you are on scholarships or funding from another source, it's always a good idea to build in a bit of a buffer for yourself when you arrive in Dublin. Your loans might take you a little bit of time to get into your bank account. If you're obtaining funding from other sources, they might take a bit of time. And keep in mind that you will be setting yourself up. You'll be learning which transport routes are cheaper. You might be meeting more friends out for drinks just to catch up and to find more people. So give yourself that space. Save up for it a little bit.
Now, I'm going to have to correct myself in that you cannot receive AP credit for academic purposes, but you can for admission purposes. I got my academic and my admissions, so I apologise for that. So you cannot receive AP credit for academic purposes, only for your admission into UCD. And then when I arrive at UCD for the first time, where do I need to submit my documents? So presumably that's high school or transcripts, so they would go to UCD registry.
Yeah. And
you'll be requested to do that and be advised at that stage. There's somebody's asking about on-campus part-time jobs.
They're in, I suppose, in comparison to maybe say the United States or Canada, there's not a huge number of jobs on campus. There just isn't. There are some. The Students' Union are probably the best place they will post the jobs on their website generally. But in Ireland, it tends to be that if students are working, it is off campus, and again, it tends to be in those peak seasons around the winter break and the Christmas holidays, and over the summer months. There's huge demand for kind of hospitality staff and maybe shop assistants as well, but there doesn't tend to be a huge amount of kind of on-campus jobs. After you do your first year, we do hire global guides here who are all current UCD students who've done at least a year, and they work in the global lounge and they act as ambassadors and they help to welcome students. So that's an example of an on-campus, but it's only available to students who've been at UCD for at least a year.
Okay, well, I think we have already gone through all of them, so I think it's probably time to say good night. If there's any, there will be further information sent on by your specific degree programs in the coming weeks. You will have contact details of who to contact in the schools, and any general questions about arrival can be sent to international@ucd.ie, and it will be sent out to the relevant areas to answer those questions. So thank you very much, Aidan and Colm and Cody, for your time this evening, and good luck to everybody, and we look forward to welcoming you to UCD in the next couple of weeks. Bye for now.
Fantastic. Thanks. Bye.